Hello. Hello. This is Katie Hamilton, holistic nutritionist and health and transformation coach. I am really excited to be here. I'm going to be here every Monday at 7 talking about nutrition and how to support our health, how to heal our bodies, and how to stay vibrant. And so how the setup is going to be is that I'm going to talk about something that is helpful and I'm passionate about, and then at the end I'm going to take questions and I will provide answers. So if you have questions while I am talking, feel free to just enter them into the chat, and then I will go back and read them to just to be able to support you. So today's, I've made some great notes. Hi, Karen. Today's chat is going to be about something called critical clean carbohydrates. So when I heard this term, I loved it. I loved it because it is really helping me and with my clients to differentiate the difference between carbohydrates that are bad. I don't even like using the word bad, and the carbohydrates that our body depends on, okay? So I'm gonna get into what are critical clean carbohydrates, and then I'm gonna talk a bit about the sort of pop culture narrative that's happening around carbohydrates and how that might be harming us and keeping us from eating the foods that are actually going to keep us really vibrant and heal our bodies. And so I'm going to get into some carbohydrate myths and dispel any fruit fear that is out there, okay? So let's start with what are critical clean carbohydrates. And I'm going to shorten that because or else it's going to be a really long talk. And I'm going to call them carbs, glucose, or sugar. So those are all interchangeable, okay? But they're not all the same, and you'll start to understand why. So first of all, these are your body's ideal source of fuel, right? So every cell in your body uses glucose, which is the breakdown of carbohydrate, a specific glucose that we'll talk about. So glucose to fuel itself, okay? And these critical clean carbohydrates are fruit, all fruit, raw honey. Yes, raw honey is a medicine and it provides incredible glucose to the body. Sugar, potatoes, okay? So I know there's also a bad reputation around potatoes, but potatoes, sweet potatoes, and squash, and actually coconut water. So ideally, if you've ever been to the tropics and you're drinking coconut water, you're getting incredible carbohydrates just bound to so many minerals and nutrients that your body soaks up. So why are they so critical? Oh my, there's a long list. They protect your nervous system. They fuel every cell in your body. They help to rebuild your muscle tissue. They fuel your brain, and they are a big part of the brain tissue, because even though there's a mistruth and untruth out there that the brain is primarily fat, it's actually not. It's mainly carbohydrate. Carbohydrates should be the main storage in your liver, so that when you go for a couple hours without food, your liver can actually throw sugar into your blood system so you don't go into a crash. But unfortunately, through stress and diet, our glycogen or our glucose storage in our liver is much lower than it should be, okay? What else do they do for us? I made a good list here. Yes, they also protect our adrenals against adrenal fatigue, because again, when the liver has a good storage of glucose, then the adrenals don't have to kick in to give you energy. But if we're in low storage in our liver, then the adrenals have to work overtime. And this is a big thing that I am seeing with clients and conversations with even friends, is fatigue. They also are huge in supporting your immune system and keeping you healthy and healing from chronic disease, okay? So they are so important. And remember, we're getting them from fruit, from raw honey, potatoes, squash, and starchy vegetables like carrots and beets, okay? And now 60% of your daily food intake should be coming, ideally, from these sources. And with the rise of high protein diet and the narrative out there that high protein diet is best, it actually also equals a high fat diet. And the way that I look at food is not good or bad. It's about how do we honor the body's needs. And it's like a wild, wild west out there with information. It can be very confusing. And so somewhere along the line, for centuries, we knew that fruit was what healed us. It was considered gold, right? Like it was considered the wealthiest would have access to the fruit and the peasants wouldn't, and they would actually not live as long and they would suffer from diseases that the wealthier classes just wouldn't suffer from. So somewhere along the line, I think it's in the past 2 decades, fruit has been and carbohydrates have been named bad, right? So there's this umbrella kind of narrative that like carbs are bad, protein and fat is good. We need all of them and we need them in the right amount, okay? That's the key. And so the clean carbohydrates that our body is yearning for and calling for, we need about 60 to 70% from our daily food intake. And that's a lot. That's a lot. And when we're eating a lot of protein and fat, we might not be eating as many of the carbs that we need. And what happens over a period of time is that fat actually inhibits absorption of glucose into the cells. It also pushes out the storage of glucose in the liver. And it creates a whole other whack of challenges for the digestive system as well, because that fat starts to line and harden on the intestinal lining and the lining of the stomach and doesn't allow nutrients to absorb as well. And it also feeds the pathogens, right? So it challenges our immune system. It feeds the pathogens, those sticky fats and proteins that get stuck because digestive system is weak and the liver is overwhelmed with all this fat and can't produce as much bile to break it down. So there's this myriad of effects that happen when we eat too much protein and fat, and yet that is the thing, that's the trend. That is what we're told to do. That is what we're told that is healthy. And unfortunately, I'm seeing so many clients come to me that have been on these diets, and for a period of time, they feel okay. Why? Because on these high-fat protein type diets, we're told not to eat carbs. So people are cutting out the carbs that are processed. So that's good. And so they feel a little bit better. But over time, their liver and their pancreas and their digestive system takes a hit, okay? So it's really like we're swinging. And where can we find that middle ground? And so, I'm just going through here to make sure that I've touched on. Right. So the idea here is that we want to be eating the majority of our food from fruits and vegetables. Mother Earth, she knew what her children needed, right? And so she's produced the most abundant and beautiful fruits and vegetables for us. And what is absolutely wild is that since we have deemed carbs are bad, there is less and less fruit being consumed, to the point that now from 2000 to 2020, 30% decrease in fruit consumption, and groceries are throwing fruit out by the barrels because we are walking right past it. And then where are we going? If we're not eating those living fruits and vegetables, where are we going in the grocery store? What food are we eating? And so we need to really look at, like, why is there so much disease and chronic illness and autoimmune and chronic illness and mystery symptoms that are being experienced by people, and yet fruit intake has been going down. So what's going on here? And yes, we're exposed to more chemicals than ever, which also feeds the pathogens, but it's not the fruit that's harming us. And yet that is one of the first things that is to blame. I have not had one client come to me who has not been afraid of eating more fruit because they were told it would make them fat or the sugar is bad. So let's get into those details, okay? Carbohydrates are not made the same, okay? sugar to sugar to sugar is not the same. We cannot compare processed sugar to the sugar that is in fruit. And unfortunately, with this umbrella effect that carbs are bad, fruit has been thrown under the bus, okay? And just an example, would you say that water from a stream in Switzerland is the same as water from your toilet bowl? No, it's not. And so it's the same with sugar. It is not all made the same. So fruit sugar, the sugar found in fruit, is bound to phytochemicals, antioxidants, minerals, vitamins, antivirals, antibacterials, antifungals. It is the very thing. Sugar, the glucose, is like the guy that unlocks the key so all of those nutrients can get into your cell. So it's basically like walking along with a backpack, and it has all these nutrients in its backpack, and the cell says, yeah, I recognize you. You can come in and deliver all your nutrients to the cell. Whereas sugar that has been processed and stripped of its nutrients doesn't have any of those things, okay? And in fact, it actually feeds the pathogens. Whereas the sugar in fruit kills the pathogens in your body. I mean, the vitamin C in fruit is one of the most profound things that you can do for your body at this time to boost your immune system and support yourself, to be to give your body the strength to discriminate against all of the pathogens that we're exposed to, far more than COVID. We have been exposed to pathogens as long as we've been here. Right? And so what has been keeping us healthy is that piece of fruit that you ate that one morning. And when we're looking at good and bad, we have to look at a spectrum. So fruit sugar is at the absolute 100% life-giving, I mean, the most potent healing food you can put in your body. And processed carbohydrates, candy bars, I'm so out of eating processed sugar. What else is there? Muffins, donuts, pizza, chocolate bars. I said that. White sugar, brown sugar, that would be on the other end, right? And so when we say carbs are bad, we really need to understand what we're talking about and not use that umbrella term. And we cannot say sugar is bad when glucose from fruit is the very thing keeping you alive and feeding every cell in your body, right? So I really wanted to bring that forward because I actually, even though I went to school for studying the body and kinesiology at Mac and holistic nutrition, I was so indoctrinated in this fear that I was afraid to eat a banana because I thought a banana would make me fat. I thought a banana, nope, that's too high in sugar. That was the mantra that was going through my head. Carrots, no. Beets, too high in sugar. And, it wasn't until and I'll share more on other Mondays. It wasn't until I actually became ill with brain fog, chronic fatigue, and just wicked digestive issues. And I suffered for 10 years, and my own industry kept telling me, well, you have low iron, you're low energy, you got to eat more meat, eat more protein. Well, let me tell you, I packed on the pounds. My liver almost shut down on me, and my iron levels just dropped even more. And it wasn't until I found out the reality of what is underlying my health issues that I was, Oscar said, so glad to hear fruit is good. It is good. So if you've been eating it, you are good. You are doing great things for your body. It wasn't until I discovered what was underlying my issues with the pathogens and the amount of heavy metals that we're exposed to, and the toxins and the fats and the proteins, that I was just asking my body to process. And I took a break from that. And no, this is not an anti-meat conversation. I eat meat. I just increased the amount of fruits that I ate, and I mean, just, it was unbelievable what happened. And I'll get more into that story on different Mondays because that's really relevant, and I think it's really inspiring to hear. But it really was when I started to welcome in more fruit. I don't know if you can see behind me, but like, if I don't have a whole whack of it in my house, I just don't feel great. Okay, so I want to just get into the myths that you might have been exposed to, and I really want to help you dispel them and to just plant seeds of different narratives and stories that can be empowering for you. Okay, so myth number 1 is fruit sugar is bad. And I think I kind of covered that in a pretty solid way. And so that would be myth number 1. So if there's anything that you're going to take away from today, it's fruit sugar is life-giving. It's the opposite of bad, okay? And I invite you, I start my day every day with this, and this has been the takeaway from all my work with clients, that even years later, they'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm still doing my fruit bowl and I feel so good, and my family's they feel so good. And so I invite you to try waking up, and the first thing that goes in your body in the morning is a bowl of fruit. 4 to 5 different fruits. Pick all the colors, go orange right now because all that orange fruit is bringing in the vitamin C, the mangoes and the papaya and the oranges and pineapple, and just bringing that food into your body the first thing in the morning. And now here's a tip. If you want to balance your electrolytes and your blood sugar, you want to add in celery. Okay, that's a really good tip. The sodium in celery helps to balance out your electrolytes. Why people are also afraid of eating fruit is because they're afraid of spiking their insulin. But the pectin and the fiber in fruit does not spike your insulin the same as processed sugar. And when we add the celery, you actually balance out your electrolytes because you're bringing in that electrolyte of sodium that your blood and your body is monitoring, okay? So that's a really good tip, and it tastes really good. So just chop up a couple of pieces. And so the second myth is avoid out-of-season fruit. If it's not local, if it wasn't grown in season here, then it's not good. This is a myth. This is not true. That fruit was grown somewhere in the world in season, okay? And it is a miracle. And our ancestors would say this to us. Are you kidding me? We would have killed for that fruit. And it is sitting in your grocery store, delivered to your grocery store. I mean, there's still towns that I drive through that do not have access, and this beautiful fruit is not brought to you. I mean, here in the city, we are so fortunate, and we have access to this incredible healing fruit. It was picked in season where it was grown, and it was grown in soil that our local fruit we don't have exposure to. So we're also getting different minerals and vitamins and phytochemicals and compounds that we haven't even been able to study or understand. And we get to eat that and put that in our body, okay? So it's just simply not true. Okay, I will get to your question when I am done, yes. And myth number 3 is fruit picked unripe doesn't have nutritional value, okay? So we go in, the kiwis are hard, we question, is this gonna really give me what I need? And the reality is, yes, it will, okay? Because the farmers know that fruit has a window of time to be picked, and it can be picked before ripe, and it will ripen off the vine. And this is just the miracle of Mother Earth. This is the miracle and the awe that we all don't necessarily have the science behind, but if we can trust it, that kiwi will ripen on your shelf. And if it doesn't, which happens to me once in a while, then that means that it was picked too early. It wasn't picked in the window. But there is a window, and that fruit knows that, and it's taken off the vine or it's taken off the tree, and it will still ripen on your shelf, on your, wherever you keep your fruit. Oh, best to keep it out of the fridge, by the way, before it ripens, right? Unless you want to slow down ripening. And it will reveal and become full of those nutrients that you need. Now, is it as ideal as being able to pick it from the tree and put it in your mouth? Absolutely not, because that's the way that Mother Earth intended for us to eat. When that happens, of course, everything is at its peak. The energy of that food is at its peak because it's connected to its life source. So yes, that life source will diminish, but not to the point that we want to walk by that fruit, because that is the very thing that the body needs, okay? So myth number 4 is fruit feeds candida. It doesn't. I don't know how many clients have come to me and said, oh, no, I can't do that because that's part of my bloating issue. That's part of like I have candida, I can't have that. And I was told that 2 years ago. And I was on that bandwagon too when I was early in my coaching in nutrition, like 12 years ago, when I believed that. And that's what I was told until I found otherwise. And it's not true. Fruit does not feed the bad guys in your stomach. It kills it. It's actually your biggest defense against them. And when we're dealing with candida, what is actually really underneath that is strep bacteria. That is the cause of the inflammation and the bloating and the gas and the pain and the beginning of really challenging digestive issues. And what do we need to kill that strep bacteria? Fruit. And each Monday, I'm going to introduce a different fruit, maybe a couple. I'm going to talk about in more detail about what they are doing for your body exactly, because when you start to understand, you will develop a reverence and a respect for this food like no other, okay? And so just know that that is not true. Now, processed sugar will feed the fungus and the bacteria and the viruses in your body. So will a whole bunch of other food. And again, we'll get into that on another Monday. So just know that it's not the fruit. So when you are told by your doctor, when you have nagging symptoms of indigestion or any symptoms at all, and your doctor says, don't eat fruit, it's too high in sugar, eat more eggs, eat more protein, know that they get maybe 2 to 3 hours of nutrition education, and that's not their expertise, and that's okay. And they're just following what they've been told. And what they've been told is based on something that's not true, okay? Again, remember that umbrella, all sugar is bad, all fruit and fruits thrown under there. So I hope that this has inspired you, brought some new understanding and awareness around the food that you're eating, and you can start to become more aware of your food choices and where they come from, because often we make choices based on belief systems. And belief systems are essentially narratives and stories that we've been told over and over and over again to the point that we believe it. And if we believe something so intensely, it becomes a law. And then our reality follows that. So if our reality is that fruit is bad, sugar is bad, carbohydrates are bad, then we're actually avoiding one of the most important foods that is protecting you against this COVID little bug that's out there and every other bug that's out there. And it is also glucose is the main building block of your muscle tissue. It's not protein, despite what people will tell you. The main building block of your muscle tissue is water and carbohydrate. And yes, there's amino acids that support, that's the breakdown of protein, amino acids, just like the breakdown of carb is glucose. But it's primarily carbohydrate. Okay, so I have so much to share with you, and I can't wait to get on here on Mondays. I will be sharing about how to introduce fruit into your diet, how you can eat it throughout the day and balance blood sugar, how you can support your muscles to rebuild after a workout, because if you're here with Embody, then you're probably interested in building muscle and staying healthy, and you work out and you want to get the most out of it. So I am going to now just answer some questions here, and I thank you so much for watching this, and I hope that it inspired you. Okay, so glad to hear that fruit is so good. Yes, Oscar. Virginia said, can we eat as much fruit as we'd like through the day, or are there limits? Well, so 60 to 70% of your food intake should be from fruit. So I find personally, I have a fruit bowl in the morning, and then throughout the day I snack on fruit, but I like to combine it with a salty vegetable. So whether it's cucumber or celery or spinach, or I'll do something I call a salad bomb, and I'll literally just take sprouts and put them in my mouth, because when you combine that orange and mango with the salt from not table salt, that's not the same. The salt clusters in vegetables are quite different. You're balancing your blood sugar, okay? And you can snack on that throughout the day. In fact, that is an incredible snack to keep your brain fueled. And if you're working a lot on your computer, our brain overheats, right? If you're focused on, and using your mind and you're not taking many breaks, your brain will overheat. I feel it. And the coolant for your brain is fruit sugar. It's actually a coolant. So it's just like after a stressful event, you want to eat something sweet. You do want to eat something sweet. It's like after the doctor, the kid gets the lollipop, but you just don't want it to be from the processed sugar. The body's craving it from the healthy sugar. That's the difference, okay? Paula, oh, that's awesome. Thanks for being here. And how much celery should we eat each day? Well, celery is, like I said, you want to combine it. So two of those pieces of celery in your fruit bowl would be great. That would be enough. And then 2 of those pieces with your fruit snack would be wonderful. But you can chomp on celery throughout the day. I mean, celery is an absolutely incredible herb. It's actually not even a vegetable, it's an herb. And it provides you with a lot of living water, okay? I hope that answers your question. Virginia, thank you. Have been off fruit for years because of the carbs. Yes! Oh my gosh. So if I've just reached one person, then I've done my job. Okay, well, thank you so much for listening, and I will be here next Monday. If this sort of sparked any more questions, I'm available. You can email me at katielaurahamilton@gmail.com, or you can find me on my Facebook or contact me through Embody. I'm happy to answer questions. Are there specific fruits for specific issues? My sister has always eaten berries as a part of her anti-cancer treatment. Absolutely there are. And in fact, this is what I am going to be getting deeper into. I could only just sort of brush the surface of the fruits and the specific ones that help with killing different bacteria, different viruses in our body, healing different tissue from the damage that these viruses and bacteria and the heavy metals and the chemicals that we're exposed to that oxidate our cells and age us. And what is your advice to diabetics with regarding to fruit? So Sheila, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a little talk then on a Monday. These questions are already inspiring me for future talks about diabetes. And I'm going to dispel some myths around sugar and really get into the science behind what is creating diabetes, what is creating insulin resistance, and the misleading information out there about what food to avoid and what to eat when you have diabetes. So that will definitely be an upcoming talk for sure. That is really important. And no, you do not have to avoid fruit when you have diabetes. In fact, actually it will help heal. So we'll really get into understanding the more biochemistry behind that, okay? So if there's no other questions, thank you again for being here. And yeah, I just really look forward to sharing information. If you ever want one-on-one support, I am available and so excited to help my clients get the information into their hands so that they can heal at the root. We do not have to suffer from so many of the diseases and mystery illnesses that are out there. And when I got this information, it changed my life, and it's been changing my client's life. And it's a deep, important mission that I have here to support you to get this information and heal. Okay, so have a wonderful evening, and I will see you next Monday. Ciao.